Good morning, hello and welcome to UK Fast Campus. We're here for our Wednesday webinar. It's that time of the week again, and today we have got a fantastic topic for you. I say that every week, but it's the second webinar of the year and we haven't talked about GDPR yet, so we are on a roll, aren't we? My name is Arlene Bulfin. I'm your host today. I am Director of People Development at UK Fast and part of the teaching team. We've got a great topic today, I've said that, but we're talking about the importance of mentoring. Now, this is something over the last couple of years that people are really getting into. And why? Well, research from the Federation of Small Businesses shows that small businesses who get involved with mentorship, who are mentors or are mentored, have superior survivability rates when compared to non-mentored businesses. So what does that mean? Well, if you're a small business, a startup, you should be looking at mentoring. It's that simple. We've got this great panel today. They've got lots of different experiences when it comes to mentoring, and they're going to share it all today. So if you want to get involved in the discussion, as always, use the hashtag UKFastWebinar, and you can send your questions straight through to us here today in the studio. So without any further ado, let's jump into it. Our panellists are going to introduce themselves. Andrew, we'll start with you.
Hi, I'm Andrew Ramwell from Know and Do. It's a business consultancy and we do coaching and mentoring. I've run several mentoring programs. I help train the mentors at UK Fast, and I'm also doing some mentor training for the NHS as well at the moment.
Brilliant. Thanks, Andrew.
Hi, I'm Claire Marie Boggiano, and I've got my own business, Aluric Limited, which specialises in change management and people development. And with regard to mentoring, I've helped clients set up mentoring programs. I also do quite a lot of mentoring myself, and I'm delighted to be one of the mentors on the Tech Manchester programme here at UK Fast.
Fantastic. Thanks, Claire Marie.
Hi, I'm Lisa Megatroyd. I'm the Regional Manager for 1 Million Mentors. We are a part of the charity Uprising, and we run a mentoring project for young people, and I'm also a business mentor through Tech Manchester.
And I'm Patricia Keating. I'm the Director for Tech Manchester, which is a fully funded organisation by UK Fast, which is there to help early stage tech-focused businesses. One of the things that we do is that we run a very formal, structured 12-month mentoring programme, but we rely very much on the volunteer aspects of the business leaders of Manchester to get involved in that. And I'm super excited to raise this as a topic today.
Brilliant. I think, Trish, you've hit us on our first maybe opening question in there. You said, you really rely on these guys to get involved. So tell me about the volunteering aspect of mentoring. How do people get involved?
I think from my experience and spending lots of time with different people that do get involved, I think it's there's lots of different reasons, but they kind of fall into a couple of different kind of categories. There's the personal development aspect of why they want to improve their own skills as leaders, as managers, as mentors for their own staff and their own businesses. And then there has to be that element of giving back, because quite often, most of the time, I think everybody might agree that mentoring is generally an unpaid part of what people do. So there definitely has to be some kind of sort of philanthropic aspect to it.
Okay.
I don't know.
So why
Andrew,
did you guys get involved? Why maybe not even in the Tech Manchester?
She made us.
Yeah.
She said, you're going to be a mentor, and we went, okay, I'd love to.
Nobody argues with
There's more to
Trish.
that, and also I tell them to.
But Andrew, you've said, previously you've mentored in outside of Tech Manchester in other areas. What was it that you thought, I want to get involved in a programme?
I think, as Trish said, when you set up a business or you're involved, even if you're working for somebody else, you'll make mistakes along the way, because that's how we learn. And I think from a mentoring perspective, it was actually seeing somebody that was maybe making mistakes where you felt you could go in and you could support them. Mm-hmm. But the important thing is, when a manager's doing that, that person's under a bit of pressure then to perform as the manager wants them to. The key thing about mentoring is I don't own the performance. So, my job then is to go out and give a bit of advice. It's not to tell them exactly what to do, but it's to ask them some questions to help them to begin to understand that they could look at something differently. And then, because I'm not directly telling them and I'm not responsible for that performance, they tend to relax a bit. So you call it offline. So, I think it's difficult for a manager to be a mentor, because they're ultimately the manager as well. And people do try to mix it. Yeah. So I think my experience of mentoring is that there's a lot of confusion about what mentoring is and what it isn't. I think, like what Tech Manchester's done, mentoring should be free. That's how I understand it. Yeah. I think if you're providing advice and you're getting paid for it, for me, that's consultancy. So, from that point of view, I think it's just being able to give back. Because normally it's just a bit of a nudge for people as well. Although you have a structured programme, I think gets the best results.
Absolutely.
Don't know what others think
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, I was going to say, just touching on that in terms of it's offering a non-judgmental space so that you understand that you can kind of raise different topics and talk about those in a non-judgmental kind of environment. And so you can feel more open about offering that advice and getting that support. Whereas, like you said, when it's a manager and their employee, then there's always
judgment.
There's always judgment. There's
Yeah.
targets, there's pressures there. You can't, even with the best will in the world, you can't really take away from that. So I think mentoring really should be around that non-judgmental environment that you're offering.
How did you get involved, Lisa?
Very similar. I think it's you either are a mentor or you're not, even if you're not mentoring at the minute. I think it's something within you that just wants to help and give back and see, like I said, those that are maybe struggling, or even just that you want to work with them on what they're doing and kind of you're excited by those different projects and how you can help them get further. So for me, it was just wanting to do that, really. I used to manage a co-working space, so I worked with lots of different businesses, and I previously worked for a tech company before that, and I really wish I'd had a mentor. So therefore, I wanted to be that person that I didn't have. So that's really why I got involved.
Brilliant. Claire Marie, what's led you to mentoring over the years?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was always doing it, but I didn't know that that's what I was doing.
It's called, yeah.
And also, I've personally benefited from having mentors as well. And again, sometimes that has been very official relationships. And actually, with hindsight now, I can see other people who were naturally mentoring me, and I was getting the benefit of that. And then it really works with the type of work that I do. So I everything's about change in my world. And so change, I believe, is about learning something or unlearning something, whether it's a behavior or a piece of information or a process. And so mentoring and coaching actually are two key mechanisms of really helping people choose to change and make that change.
Brilliant. It links really nicely with what you do, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Trish, why is it important? So why is mentoring important? You know, what have you seen over your last 2 years?
I mean, there's quite a few statistics out there that are, that'll bandy around, how mentored companies will survive, before longer than unmentored companies and so on. But I think it's about learning. I think entrepreneurs, that if I speak about it from an entrepreneur business experience, because that's my experience, they're more successful if they're learning. The more they learn, the greater chance of likelihood they have of success. So if they're surrounding themselves by people who can help stretch them and give them that non-judgmental space where they can ask the stupid questions, I guess. We were just doing a podcast there earlier upstairs with Vicka Shaw talking about imposter syndrome and how that the pressure that creates on entrepreneurs who feel that, that they feel very underqualified to be running their own businesses, but they're surrounded by all of these celebrity entrepreneurs that are telling them that they need to know it all and be working 80 hours a week and all of that kind of stuff, and they don't have an outlet where they can actually share sort of how they're feeling, and ask those questions. But that's how they learn, is if they actually ask the questions, then they'll grow and develop and be able to actually apply that stuff to their business. So I think it comes back to learning and that link to success, and where a very vital role that a mentor can play in that in terms of signposting it.
Yeah, it's key, isn't it? That private space, non-judgmental, where you can go and someone can say to you, I had imposter syndrome, or I was at that point with the business when everyone looked like they were doing really well and I thought this isn't going the way I want, and someone to say, I know what that's like, or here's how you move forward from that. So important. Lisa, what kind of examples have you seen through your mentoring, that you're thinking this is why it's important? Because
I think from different aspects, and those working with businesses, but also, like I said, how it can improve yourself to be a mentor and kind of gain those skills. I think one of the things to touch on there is actually how lots of people maybe fall into mentoring just by kind of having conversations and speaking to people, but actually kind of getting that training, I think, is really important, and understanding more about mentoring, because when mentoring is done well, it's obviously hugely beneficial, but when it's done badly, then it's hugely detrimental. And so just raising awareness around some of looking around training for mentors, I think, is really important. And also, like you said, around that, looking out for those people that are trying to charge for it, because that is consultancy, or maybe have that ulterior motive because maybe it's going to benefit their business to gain customers or investment or etc. down the road. So trying to really keep it true to why it's such a good thing to get involved with. I don't necessarily have any statistics off the top of my head, but I do think that just being very mindful, and like I said, it's a very hot topic, certainly in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So just trying to raise awareness about mentoring for everybody.
I was just going to say, I think when you start paying for it, it changes the non-judgmental space, because then that person has a vested interest in what the outcome is of that entrepreneur or young person or whatever it might be. They're what the outcome is at the other end. If they're getting paid for it, then they have a financial interest in what's actually happening. So I think that's where it sort of muddies the water a little bit if there's money involved.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I've found, we've trained 130 plus mentors here, and when I ask the question of what is mentoring, we get a range of different
130
definitions.
answers.
Yeah, because people have got different expectations and
Yeah.
different understandings. And I think you were saying before, you've been involved in mentoring, or you think you've had mentors, but it's never been official. So you sort of go and ask a quick question of somebody. I think the biggest benefit comes when you actually formalise the programme.
Make it official.
I'm doing some training for the NHS at the moment, training senior clinicians to help people returning back to work, because of course the training in the NHS can be very long, up to 15 years.
Yeah.
So in that sort of position, a lot of people were saying that their mentoring just sort of fizzled out. There was a start, they had a bit of a process, bit of interaction, but there was no real wrap up and end to it. And I think that's one of the big problems, that you've got to have a clarity for a start, middle and end for a mentoring programme to be able to get the most benefit out of it. I experienced that when I first got my first real mentor. I was asked to take over a not-for-profit in the health sector that had struggled, and I reached out to somebody. He was an ex-chief superintendent in Greater Manchester, and he was the best person I'd ever seen chairing a meeting. And then I was supposed to be chairing an organisation. I thought, I'll go and have a chat. And he set up a formal relationship. And at first that really surprised me, because I was expecting to just go and have a chat.
Yeah.
But it worked really, really well, because it made me respond differently to him. So I'd go and do preparation before we met. The meetings were quicker, because we weren't there to shoot the breeze. I was there to bring in particular issues I was focused on. And it wasn't get to know you, how's the family. It was functional. And I really liked that. And it changed my understanding of mentoring at that point. And, it's one of the reasons I come and do the volunteer training here, because I think it's very important to have a structure to it. There are too many loose sort of entities. And when I look at them, it's not really mentoring. It's more of a casual chat.
Yeah.
And although that can be useful in and of itself, it doesn't provide the same level of benefit as a proper mentoring programme.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would echo that. I mean, my experience of helping corporates setting up mentoring programs, the benefits are immense, not just for the mentees, but also for the mentors.
Yeah.
And in fact, it was nearly that drove, there was a few requirements. One was to help the mentees, they were younger, high potential individuals in the organisation, but actually the development of the more senior managers who were going to be the mentors was a major benefit for the organisation, because they got some management development. And then the other thing that we were able to do was really cross-fertilise the organisation. It was very, very siloed, and some completely separate businesses. And what they were able to do was create a communal talent pool that everyone could see. And the benefit to the business was immense, but it was a very formalised programme. And it definitely had a beginning, a middle, and definitely an end. And I would say that's really important to know when it's over, because some mentors are good at certain points in your career cycle. They're appropriate for different things.
Yeah.
Particularly in the entrepreneurship journey, your startup, your scale up, and right through to your exit strategy, you might need quite different mentorship at those different stages.
Yeah, and we're seeing that actually in the output from the findings that we've got from the first intake of mentors. So I've been spending this month collecting that, or collating and analysing that data, and 70% of the startups that were on the first intake are coming back in to meet someone new, because they've completed, or that mission has changed, or the mentor, the value that they've got from that mentoring has come to somewhat of an end, so they're coming back in to pick up a new mission and do something else. That said, almost 90% of them are still continuing on with their mentor, so there's also that long-lasting business relationship that's built. So whilst the formal program has ended, pretty much all of them are staying in touch and continuing those conversations with those mentors. So it's long-lasting relationships that are built. Those change over time, and you find new mentors that are helping you with different specific missions and goals that you want to set out for your business. So it's that kind of that myriad.
Yeah.
Is it just startups, do you think, that can benefit from this? Claire Marie, I know you've said, business-wide, even the maybe more senior managers or maybe a higher level, but who else do you think can benefit from mentoring, or what have you seen with your experience?
I think coming from my angle, so at the minute, I said I'm working with a youth mentoring project, so we're working with 14 to 25-year-olds, and we're looking for mentors that are 25 and over, that have got a professional working experience that can then give back to these young people. So the benefits there, like you said, in terms of the personal and professional development these mentors get is massive. It can help you if you're looking to kind of go into management, if you're looking to improve your management skills. You kind of almost have this test bed to work with and see how that relates, how you find that, see if you enjoy that, because some people don't enjoy managing other people, and so, but also at the same time you're still doing a good thing. So that's been really interesting. But I think, like I said, it's mentoring is for everybody, and coming from like a personal perspective, I think I said at different points of your life, not only whether you're a startup kind of going to scale up or into exit, but also in your career, like you mentioned, that there'll be different times when you want to look at, should I be doing a career change, or how am I going to get to the next level, or am I going to take a break from my career, so how do I manage that? And you really should be looking out there for these people that can help you.
You mentioned the Uprising programme, Lisa. So how do you get the young people on board with that, and what are they going to get out of the mentoring?
Yeah, so we're part of the charity Uprising, which runs a youth leadership programme, and what we found over the last 10 years of that programme was that mentoring was a real crucial element of that. So we spun out of that into 1 million mentors. Our goal is at one point to get 1 million mentors across the UK, trained and deployed, working with young people. For the young people coming in, it's really about finding those that have got high potential but low social capital. Okay. So those that don't necessarily have the networks that we may have now in our working lives. So it's how do we help them get to their next step, kind of going from whether that's at school, college, university, wherever else we may kind of interact with them, but find them a mentor to get into adulthood. So they have someone that can help them with their university applications, looking at apprenticeships, even offering such skill, working on their confidence. It's quite a big one actually. It's our top reason why young people want to have a mentor. And I think, so we recently did a report for our work in Manchester, and it actually said that we do a pre, mid and post mentoring survey, and for the pre-mentoring survey, 44% of our young people did not feel hope for their future, which I think is just quite worrying, really.
What are
so
they
it's so therefore it's about offering them a belief that there is something for them in their future, but also I said that non-judgmental space to say we're not going to force you into this path, whether that's because sometimes maybe the school wants you to do this kind of qualification for their statistics, or your parents want you to do something else. It's saying it's not a parent, it's not a teacher, it's someone who's going to speak to you and find out what you want and how that person can help you get to that next stage.
And I think, like Andrew said at the beginning, they aren't really going to be impacted by the decisions that you make, so they can really be honest with you, and that's really important, because a teacher might have a different reason why you should do that. Parents definitely will have ulterior motives for why you should choose a certain path, but a mentor again is just going to be honest with you. So 44% at the beginning. Tell us the good news, Lisa.
Well, so
Well,
if we do this again in a year's time, so we'll hopefully have the better news, because we've only recently started. So that was in kind of September 2018. So like I said, we have a beginning, middle and end, so we're in the middle now. And they'll be graduating our first kind of real programme come like June time.
Brilliant.
So
we're looking forward to that number. Please. So young people absolutely can benefit. And it might be maybe a consideration for someone who doesn't feel like they've got the maybe business experience, but maybe has the life experience that they could work with.
Exactly.
So maybe not a career-focused mentor, but someone that can give back in terms of just life experience.
Yeah.
What a lovely way to pay something forward. Andrew, you've worked with young people, you've mentored young people as well?
Yeah, I've run a variety of different programmes. Everybody's got a different learning journey, and mine was, I'm quite happy to say it, 4 unclassifieds at school, passed 3 O-levels, 1 was woodwork. So not really outstanding, but I learnt that I learn differently, but I didn't learn that until I'd left formally school. And because I'm an August child, I left school at 15. So, and then you get a variety of jobs and you do different things. And then I got into sales, and the people I trained with kept giving me books and said, read this, and I started to figure out how the brain was wired. So we've run a variety of different programs in schools. We've tracked 12,000 school children through Manchester schools and looked at how we communicate with people, how we use language, how we use questions, and how we use that opportunity to open up the children's minds slightly differently. And it has a massive impact on the confidence, the self-esteem, the physical self-worth. And you know, we've taken that and done it in a variety of different situations now. I do some personal mentoring for people who are struggling, because I chose to go back to university later on. But once I'd figured out how to learn and had a system, I came out with the first.
Wow.
Which is, you know, nice in one level, but what I realised, it's just a system. And it's trying to say to people, because they see that and they go, well, you know, you worked at a university, you must be really clever. And I was like, well, you know, here's my results. And they go, well, how do you get from there to there? And I think it's that sort of question that then prompts that, well, someone else can see it. So I think there are lots of good mentoring programs. There are mentoring programs running in prisons and lots of different things, because you know, some of the influences, if you like, at the social end of things, it's an unrealistic lifestyle. And how do we bring that back and marry it up? Because we've got a particular problem in Manchester that 45% of kids will leave school without basic maths and English. That's not going to power the Northern Powerhouse. I think, you know, things like the 1 Million Mentor programme, but also if we set up peer mentors. I think that's the other thing. You know, I got into mentoring, and anybody I mentor, when they say, well, what can I do then? Especially because some of them do really well out of it.
Yeah.
You know, their businesses thrive off the back of it. I always say, at some point, give back.
Yeah.
You know, become a mentor yourself.
Forward.
But it's not something that just because you've run a business, that doesn't always mean that you can communicate with people.
Yeah.
So you've got to invest in your skills as well. You've got to go and do some of that reading, that learning, so that when you're in that position, you can ask questions. Because it's not about me saying, do it this way because that worked for me, because it doesn't work for you that way. So I think it really is about developing a bit of skill, having a program, and then, you know, as you're doing with the 1 Million Mentor program, and I think as we all do, it's track it, have a look, let's build some reflection. And I think that's one of the other big important elements, that many programs I see do the front end delivery but don't build enough reflection in. Because even if you're operating as a mentor, you've still got a lot to learn. Sometimes you sit with one client, you think, oh, you know, you turn up and something pops up and it's like, wow, didn't expect that. But of course, sometimes if you're stretched, how do you then go about that?
Yeah.
So you may need to go and get some further advice, a bit of supervision. So I think the reflection, and that's where I think these formal programs, it's not to overcomplicate it, but it's to protect everybody and to get the maximum
To get the most
impact.
from it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
that's key,
time is a
isn't it?
precious resource for all of us.
I think it's that whole piece, you know, when you're great at doing something in work and they go, right, I'm gonna promote you. You're gonna be a manager now. You're like, great. I was great at doing whatever it was, like techie stuff, whatever it is to do upstairs. But actually, I don't know how to manage people. But they just presume that you're gonna to know that, and it's the same as being a mentor. You know, there's so many people that we talk to that I've recruited into this program where they've either said they think that they've been doing mentoring, but they've no idea because they've no idea what actually mentoring is meant to be. You've your own experiences with that, Claire Marie, or you know, they just don't know where to start. They don't know how to mentor. So you do have to have that learning and that constant learning and development that happens. It's just another skill set, another soft skill that you have in your arsenal, which adds value to you as a person, to the people that are around you that work for you, or the people that you engage with on a voluntary basis.
So Trish, what does it look like if people come to Tech Manchester to the formal programme that is free of charge as a mentor? What do you do with them to give them the tools to go forward and become a mentor?
So we've kind of tried to build a whole kind of robust sort of start to end programme to prepare everybody. Everyone gets a training workshop. So for the mentors, it's a bit more intense. They pretty much have to give up a day of their time before they even get to meet any startups. So that starts with filling in an online profile and sort of detailing what they're self-assessing your skills and what you're great at. And then also what it is that you actually wanted to get out of mentoring, because that gives us a bit of an insight into sort of what their passions and motivations are. Once we get that on the system, Nicola, who's there, reaches out to them and arranges an induction meeting, and that takes about 90 minutes to 2 hours, depending on how long the chat goes on. But it's to get a more holistic view of that person. Yes, we can look at LinkedIn to get a career, but what are the things that really that person's really interested in? Do they have a passion for women in business? Do they have a passion for social enterprise? Do they have a passion for sort of helping people move, from a social capital point of view, getting sort of underprivileged people into business to getting them to be successful. And we use that then for the pre-matching process that goes into the speed dating kind of day that happens for the startups and mentors to meet. Mentors then get booked into a half-day training. Andrew is one of the amazing people that train all the mentors, and that covers things like active listening, questioning skills. We cover values and what's a mentor, and then we complement that with Lean Canvas as a business framework that everyone can follow, and also then some intellectual property knowledge and resources, because IP is now about 80% of a company's actual value now, and there is a belief that if we can empower mentors with that knowledge, that they can share it not just with one startup but with many. So that kind of teaching element, teaching the students or teaching the teachers. And then they all come together on their speed date. But the startups, we also do sort of a mini onboarding. They fill in an online profile, so again we use that for the matching. And then the day before they do a values and expectations, and also learn and do their Lean Canvas for the first time. So when the mentors and the startups come together, they've got something that they so they both have a benchmark. They can expect that their mentor has been trained, and the mentor can expect that they're at minimum, because the startups can come in with just an idea, that they have at minimum a Lean Canvas of some sort started and put some thought in behind it, all of those, even if it's just one day.
You said robust. It absolutely is. People can't just rock up and say, I think I may
No.
want to get involved.
They're not allowed to do that.
And so what's the commitment? It's a 1-year commitment?
Is it a 1-year commitment?
What is it?
1 year
That's
so
what
far.
she told me.
And we're sat here. You didn't sign up for any of this, did you? It sounds so fab, and isn't it a great example of...
But it's from spending time with people like Andrew and listening to what good experience was and what bad experience was. And we got a whole bunch of you together. That's when we first met, wasn't it? At the sort of the open night. And you facilitated one of the workshops, listening to what 100 business leaders in Manchester said about their experience in terms of what type of mentoring program that they wanted to get involved in, what things didn't work, what things did work. And that's really where it came. It's a very community-led thing that we've put together. We really just facilitate what people wanted to be part of.
It's fab.
I think just to pick up on your point there about the mentees as well, in terms of like actually preparing them, because sometimes like it can be really bad experience for the mentor if they have a mentee that's just not engaged. So doing a bit of prep work with them is really helpful to actually say, well, what do you want to get out of this? And actually there is some formality around it, because it really should be driven by the mentee, because it's about what they need and what they want. But if they kind of, I guess, feel like it is just a casual chat, and vice versa, like if they also think they're just going to come along and potentially get investment, and that's what they're coming for, and that's not really, they don't need a mentor for that.
It's not the place for them.
It's not the place for it, no. So having that opportunity to actually work with the mentees and say, right, let's think about what you need and why you're kind of going to get involved with this program is really important as well. But
there's lots of different programs out there, and they all offer slightly different things, because not everybody wants to make that type of commitment. And we lost people on the way during induction or at the open night particularly, where people did make a commitment on the night to say, I'm going to mentor X amount of hours, whatever. And people were like, you know what, I just like doing the cup of coffee and the not having a commitment. And there's still an absolute place for that. You can get as much out of a 5-minute conversation, can't you, Andrew, as you can from a 3-hour monthly meeting sometimes. That's your experience. Certainly we were talking about it before we came on live.
I think my view is I tend to do it in shorter sprints. So I would say, what's the particular issue you're dealing with at this point? And whatever they present with, it's never normally the issue. There's sort of a sub-issue behind it. So what I try to do is work with them on one thing, give them an idea that there's a way that they could begin to approach it, get them to understand how to do that, because you're giving them a foundation skill there, which they can take and look and insert another problem, and then say, okay, I've dealt with a problem, I followed that through. I may have some skills capacity issues there on how I do it, but they've got a framework. So I tend to reset quite regularly. And that's where I've found people have drifted in the past, that they haven't had that reset. It's not an open-ended conversation. For me, I tend to say, let's focus on one thing, let's follow that through over a quarter, or maybe if a bit longer if necessary, but I want to see how you're chipping away at this. And in that way, people might have mentors for many different areas of the business. Get a financial mentor if you need finance from the side of things. Speak to an investment mentor if you need that. But one mentor can't provide everything. So I tend to try and keep it focused. Stick to the stuff, you know, where you've got some experience. From a coaching side of things, that's just it's asking open questions. You don't need the skill set there of the particular area or sector that person's working in, because your job is to get them to understand their viewpoint. But when you're mentoring, it's useful to have that bit of skills and experience that you can offer them a suggestion. You're not telling them what to do, but you can say, I've been in this experience, or I've worked with different businesses. I'm sure you found that, Claire Marie. There's other businesses you've worked with, and without breaking confidentiality, you can give someone a story to show how another business has responded.
Absolutely. Andrew, it's clear you were mentored by a chief constable, I think. You've definitely got that formality in place, but amazing. That sounds like there's a real, you know, output that you're working towards, or real, you know, outcomes that you want to be clear about, and that's really important, I think. You know, hearing you all talk, it's important you know what both of you want to get out of the relationship. Claire Marie, what about having different mentors, like Andrew was saying? Have you seen that before? Different mentors for different things?
Yeah, definitely. And again, I do that myself, you know, so I have certain people. So when I was setting up my business, there were certain people I used as mentors for that. When I had my children, there were people who need some inside information on that. And now I've got teenagers, I'm on the lookout for some mentors for that particular phase.
Oh, good luck.
And again, in transition, so a lot of the work that I do corporately is actually with high potential people who want to make a transition. So whether that's make a leadership leap, or an industry transition, or exit from an organization and do their own thing. And I think it's whenever you're in a transition, it's really helpful, no matter what that transition is. And you know, checking out the relationship as well, that, you know, the chemistry can need to work as well. So you know, if you're looking for a mentor, take the time to find the right one. And you know, and true mentors will not be offended if you meet somebody and they go, do you know what, you're lovely, but I don't think this is going to work for us. And nobody should be offended by that.
They would probably feel the same.
Works really well. You know, I mean, it was particularly obvious whenever we had the speed dating here for Tech Manchester, and we met about 6 or 8 people, and you could feel it, and also what their particular challenge was for their business. You could go, well, I think I can help in that one, but actually I don't think I'm the best person to help in this one. So a certain amount of self-awareness is really important for mentors, for them to understand themselves, their motivators, their skill set, that really enriches the whole relationship.
Yeah. I think there's another area as well, which is now you can reverse mentor. So I'll work with, you know, younger people. I've a lot to learn. You know, it's a brave new world. And I think the experience that maybe I've got, it's not the same as many of the issues that you've said that people are feeling now, that sense of no hope, etc. We're also finding now, certainly from people I'm working with, for the younger people, they've no interest in, say, getting a house, where it used to be, you know, get a job, get a house, get married, settle down, do whatever. That has been completely ripped up. Many people now, instead of having a house, would prefer to put money in the business. And then if the business is successful, I'll sell the business, I'll buy a house. So again, the way that we have learnt something, I think we've got to be open now to being able to have those dialogues. Because for the first time ever, you've got 5 generations in the workplace. We can't just say millennials. We've got to break it down. It's Gen X, Gen Y, and Gen Z. But even if you're a Gen Z, you know, born after 1995, you're 23. So, you know, we've got youngsters now, well, I call them youngsters, but coming into the system, but we've an awful lot to learn, because their aspirations, their drivers are very, very different indeed. And I think we've got to be careful that we don't overlay all our own experience, some of which is completely irrelevant.
We've seen that happen really naturally in the corporate mentoring program I helped set up for one of the clients. Really naturally, and it was quite rewarding, actually. So the mentors were saying, I'm learning so much. I'm learning so much
about the youngsters.
And because, you know, everyone was trained up front, and not only did we train the mentees and train the mentors, we also told both of them what the others were trained in, you know, so we shared the communal knowledge. And what we found is the mentors, they might be getting more out of it than the mentees.
Wow.
And reverse mentoring is definitely helping there, definitely happening in that space.
Let's turn that question on its head, because Arlene, you're a mentor here on the internal programme at UK Fast that we run for you.
My mentee forces me to do the webinars.
Yes, sitting behind the scenes
She
there.
hooks me up,
So what's your experience of...
I think, well, in a business environment like UK Fast, what I think I've found is it's incredible, because there's, you think that you're going to help someone along a journey, but absolutely they help you. You get to discover another person in the business, what they do, what their role actually does, what their team does, how the dynamics of their team relate to the dynamics in your team. So I think our mentoring relationship has definitely been a win-win for both of us, I think, and we both get a lot out of it. Absolutely. It's reverse mentoring. I will go and tell her my problems and she'll tell me hers. And I know that's not what mentoring is about, but that's what our mentoring is about. We share our successes and our challenges and help each other through both of those. So we've built a lovely personal relationship in that space as well. So I have nothing but great stuff to say about mentoring.
I'll give you a classic example of that. We were doing some work with a large organisation where a manager, we did some training, and the manager was saying that the problem he had with apprentices is they were always on social media. Never off the phones, always on social media. This manager spent 4 to 5 hours a day on email. And, when we dug down and said, well, what are they, when you catch them on the phones, what are they on? And he was like, Facebook or WhatsApp or, something like that. So we said, when we dug, it was WhatsApp. And the apprentice had set up a closed WhatsApp group. But the manager didn't understand what WhatsApp was.
Oh my God.
So, when we got down, and he had this epiphany of, that's my email. And it was like, yes. But it's also about understanding how we do those sorts of things and how that begins to work. Because many youngsters don't use email now. They use other forms of communication. So I think the speed of change is something which catches managers out now, because sometimes they'll say, well, we'll leave that to the techie department. But I think it's about understanding the tools, the technology, and then people. And of course, how people respond. Because if you've got digital natives, they're going to do things very differently. But my generation is not digital native, but if you've got younger children now, they're on iPads and other devices are available, but from a very young age, and so they're used to doing something like that.
They approach everything completely differently.
We have a WhatsApp group for come to dinner.
But although technology can be great, the biggest space opportunity I've found is when actually you give someone a piece of paper and you sit them down and you just say, what are you thinking about? Just write it down. And that completely changes everything. Because that process then of forcing somebody to write something down, people find quite difficult because we don't do it very often. If somebody verbalises something, we think that the other person's understood. But I think it was George Bernard Shaw said, communication is not what we say, it's what we hear and understand. And I think what mentoring gives is that opportunity to hear. You said it before, Lisa, it's when you're talking to the youngsters, when they explain something, their viewpoint can be very, very different. We've got to be careful we don't just assume that we know that. Oh, I was a teenager. Very different now being a teenager. Very, very different. I think the pressures, Trisha's going, thank God they didn't have mobile phones when I was
Thank God. Thank God.
But, from that perspective, I think it is very different. So we've got to, and I find that one way of being able to do it because it just slows the process down.
So I think what's really interesting is, we started out with a real focus on the benefit for the mentee, but actually what we're coming to here is massively beneficial for the mentor. And if you're especially maybe further along in your career or very senior, how are you keeping your finger on the pulse of your business? And especially in any business now, you need to know what's cool and what's up and coming. WhatsApp, they'll tell you the kids at school now, is not cool anymore. That's what? My husband teaches year 7, so they don't use it. They said it's not cool. Only old people use it. So things move, things are changing. You heard it here first. WhatsApp are definitely WhatsApp. But it's moving so fast, you need to keep up to date. And so mentoring might be a really nice way that you can be doing that. Yeah. We got so carried away there. We missed a question on Twitter. Sarah said, "I'm excited. How do I get started with mentoring?"
In what way?
That's all we had.
Okay.
So where do you start? So we've got some.
There's a million places that you can start. I guess it just depends on what type of. Does she want to be mentored, or Sarah, can you keep tweeting in? Or is she looking to become a mentor? I guess there's lots of different pathways.
And I would say, be both.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
everyone
Yeah.
should be a mentor and
Yes.
have a mentor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone has something that they know
yeah.
that they can share with someone else.
And if you're in a large organisation, there is likely to be an official programme. So, you know, get in touch
Seek
with
that
your
out.
HR and your people team and check that out. If you're not in an organisation, if you're in a startup environment, come to Tech Manchester and talk to them. Or there's other
Yeah.
startups. There's loads
Yeah,
and loads happening
don't
in
know where Sarah lives.
Manchester. There's an awful lot happening in
Yeah.
Manchester at the moment that I know of. And
One Way to
also-
Mentor website?
Yeah.
One Million
Yes,
Mentor.
yeah. So currently we're in the West Midlands, Manchester, and we just launched in Cardiff, and we're launching in London in the summer, which is really exciting. But like I said, that there are lots of youth mentoring projects, especially.
Yeah.
And I think if you're just starting out into becoming a mentor, and it doesn't matter what your age is or what your experience is, I think it's almost like I kind of describe it as not necessarily easier, because that's kind of diminishing what it really is about. But certainly when I look at, say, mentoring a business, there's a lot more kind of research and effort involved in that relationship. Whereas if you're working with a young person, it tends to be a little bit more, it's just your life experience. So you can just share and just have that conversation.
It's a good first
So-
step.
Yeah, it's a
For
very
anyone
good
that's
first step.
starting out, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And there normally will be some element of kind of training around that as well. So youth mentoring, I think, is really important.
And also, if you're a woman in business or in leadership, you know, some of the female networks are really good to look at. So Forward Ladies have a mentoring program, the Northern Power Women
Brilliant.
have a mentoring program, and other
Yeah.
women in leadership organisations definitely do.
And this should always be free. You agree? A mentoring program?
I do.
Yeah,
Yes.
to
Yeah.
take part.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So that's
Yeah.
something to look
The
out
Business
for.
Growth Hub in Greater Manchester
Manchester.
also have a mentoring programme.
Yeah.
And I know that we tie that in because
Yeah.
I'm also a mentor for them, but they've got a range of startup advice. So I think there's mentor programmes all the way along. The one thing
Yeah.
I would say is that anybody can have a mentor. I know, Claire Marie, you've said that you work with high performance people, and I think too many people have an expectation that a mentoring program is for sort of superstars, but anybody can have a mentor. Sometimes you just reach out. You know, I'll get people that will say, would you mentor me? And that's kind of nice, and if I can, maybe you can create some space, but do reach out, but take your time and craft it.
Yeah.
It's a bit like a LinkedIn where
Don't
someone
ask
says, saw your
everybody.
profile, can we link
Can we
in?
connect? Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Why?
because I don't know you. I don't know why we're
What's your ask?
connected.
Yeah.
If I did that, you'd have thousands and thousands of people. But for what reason? If you want to build a relationship, you need to understand what you can do, how you can do it. And I think, going back to what you said before, Claire Marie, am I the right person to do that as well? It is about a relationship. And it's also about sometimes being able to end a relationship and move on, because maybe you've taken that person as far as you can, and maybe there's something else they need to do. Because sometimes it's a break, not just for mentoring, but they need to go and train. They need to develop some skills. You can only take somebody so far, but if they're not investing in themselves and moving themselves forward as well, there's not much you can do. So sometimes it's about breaking a relationship when it's not working as well.
either. Brilliant.
There's a kind of a concept around having your own board of directors, which I kind of like as like a bit of a phrase of like, actually you should be reaching out and having, 5, 6 people that, like I said, in different parts of your life can offer some advice. And that could be a peer, it could be a superior, or someone that is kind of more senior and experienced than you. Or it could be that reverse mentoring aspect as well, so you're keeping it in touch. But I just like the concept of having your own board of directors.
Yeah, that maybe hold you to account or challenge you or push you. Yeah,
Exactly.
I love that. That's a fabulous idea.
I think one of the things, Andrew, that you just said that I think is really important to highlight is that don't be afraid to ask. Sarah, if you're looking for a mentor, don't be afraid to ask, because in my experience and in most of the experts that I've had on the podcast I've been talking to, is that people want to help. So if you ask someone for help, they're 99.9% of the times, if they can help and they think they're going to be able to add value, they will help you. So I think that's it. But do your homework in terms of understanding what it is that you want from a mentor, what you think a mentor is going to do for you. Discuss that with that person and do your research around what that mentor actually can provide you before you approach them. So a bit of homework, a bit of expectations, and just ask.
Just
ask.
get
Yeah.
go on. I've had a couple more questions in, but I'm keeping an eye on the time. So I think we've got one more from Lucy. Why should a business consider incorporating a mentor program into their workspace? Claire Marie, maybe that's one for you, a good one for you.
Yeah, so there's some serious business benefits to it, so particularly for larger organisations, but it also works for smaller ones. So it's really good to connect different levels of an organisation, particularly if they're working in silos. So if you have more senior people that are mentoring more junior people, they get to see the talent that's coming through. So it can really link into talent development and talent planning, you know, future succession planning, because they've got much better visibility of who's coming through the organisation and what their motivators are and what their skills are. And it also can really help with culture development and community in a business. You know, it's about networking individuals across the business. I think that's one of the main, well. Plus the sheer management development that happens for the more senior people, and also the development that happens for the mentees as well.
Brilliant. Maybe just one more, because I know, Andrew, you mentioned this. Gareth says mentoring and coaching are used interchangeably. They're different disciplines. What's the panel's view of the fundamental differences? So, Andrew, you touched on that little bit of coaching, and you have a lot of experience that.
Yeah.
What are the differences?
Coaching is a method of communication, really. It's asking questions to the person without telling somebody what to do. Within mentoring, you ask those questions, but you also offer some advice and experience and knowledge. In coaching, you don't.
What I would say is, you can find yourself going up and down that spectrum between coaching and mentoring. I think you need to know where you are, so that's a responsibility on you to know if you're mentoring or if you're coaching. I got a great line once that explains the difference, and you've sort of said it, you know, in a coaching situation, the coach asks you the questions. In a mentoring situation, you're asking them the questions. So I found that a really helpful sort of checkpoint to work it out.
Brilliant. Yeah. So I think we're going to have to wrap it up there. Final thoughts, Trish, what would you like to say on behalf of Tech Manchester? Our original question is, why is mentoring important?
Oh, just get a mentor and get mentoring. I'm shameless, I'll always call out and ask for new people that want to get involved and start mentoring. We've got an amazing program. We've got training this afternoon, 15 new business leaders coming on board.
Wow.
Always looking for female mentors. Female business leaders, please get in touch. We love to hear from you. We want to try and get to that 50-50 parity in the mentoring. At the minute, we've got about a third. Okay. So we really just want to make sure there's more role models there to help more aspiring females who want to start businesses. And it's great to have those amazing, successful business women and men involved. So just get started. It's not going to. What's the worst that's going to happen?
Brilliant, Lisa. Your thoughts on why mentoring is important to finish up?
Yeah, I kind of echoing it again, just like get involved, and like I said, go out and ask, go and speak to people, and get your own mentor, but also give back. I think it's really important to pay it forward. No matter where you are in your life, you can help somebody that's coming behind you. So whether it be a young person or somebody in business, whether that be whatever rank that is, just go out there and get involved. It's a great way to be involved in the community and to support those around you.
And 1 million mentors, look that up.
Yes, please do. We are definitely looking for more mentors.
Claire Marie, what's the best part about being a mentor?
What's the best part? It's that warm, fuzzy feeling you get at the end.
It's that progress.
Yeah, and also I love the idea that, you know, to learn from other people's mistakes so that you get to go and make new, better mistakes. Why repeat your mistakes? Let's do more different mistakes. So, you know, both as a mentor and a mentee, I think that can happen there.
Brilliant. And Andrew, any final thoughts? What advice would you give people thinking about dipping their toe in the mentoring water?
I think just do a little bit of research on it. It's not complicated. You know, there are some skills, some coaching skills and communication skills that make that mentoring relationship a lot better. But I think, as everybody said, it is about, we've all had mentors, whether those have been formal or informal. I think if we can make them a bit more formal, then we can get more bang for our buck. And as Claire Marie just said, it is great because as a mentor, you get a lot out of it. You get that opportunity to see somebody not make the mistakes that you've made or you've seen others make, and that means that they can spend more time, more effort and develop their business and work with other people. And the other thing is you learn a lot as well. Sometimes, you know, it pushes you. It's easy sometimes once you get to a certain level to sort of plateau. But when you get a mentee that's hungry and it's sort of pushing you, it really gives you that extra drive as well. So I like it because it keeps you sane. And it keeps you challenged as well, because, you know, there's some really good youngsters coming through the system, and you think, I've got to raise my game here.
I've got to keep up.
Otherwise I'm going to look, you know, a bit too old. So
No,
it keeps
not-
you young at heart.
Brilliant. It keeps you young. That's the sell
Yeah.
today. No, listen, I think win-win. I think you've all really emphasised that point. There's so much to be got out of it from a mentee and a mentor point of view. So get involved. That's what we're saying, isn't it? Thank you very much for your time today. That's been really enjoyable. Thank you very much for watching, wherever you're watching from. And please come back next week and tune in again. We're going to have another really great topic on Wednesday's webinar. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day.